Welcome to the special ABN cast brought to you from this year's Predictive Aircraft Maintenance Conference in London. My name's Lee Hayhurst. I am the editorial director of Aviation Business News, and today we'll be hearing from a few more of the key delegates and speakers who have been with us over the last 2 days. Welcome, Ken, to the ABN cast studio here at PAM 2023. Thanks ever so much for being our platinum sponsor this year again. We really appreciate your support for the event. Just a few words on how you feel it's gone. We're sitting here at lunch. You can hear the lunch going on behind us. How do you feel it's gone? Topics we've discussed, the people that came and the venue, all been good for you?
It's been very good from an air trade point of view. This is our second year now sponsoring the event, but I think this year was even bigger, better, more people, better topics, and we fully enjoyed it, and looking forward to next year again. On topics, actually, but the additional time we gave it, because we gave it 2 days this year, allowed us to talk more into what air trade does, where we're talking about the full life cycle of the asset and how predictive maintenance works into that. So just talk about why that's important for you to get that across in terms of what you do when you get an asset that's coming towards end of life. Well, I think people don't fully understand what we do when we talk about end of life. So I think Lee Carey this morning gave a very good rundown of what we do as a company. Explained how we do our evaluations of the assets, the time that goes into that, our knowledge. Also, we don't only do end of life assets, we actually buy brand new engines and dismantle them.
Yes, so which was mentioned in the
I don't think it was
in
mentioned.
The panel, wasn't it, afterwards?
Slightly, yeah.
Well, it was, because you've done 787s, which aren't brand new, but they're only 12 years old, and yet there are aircraft flying at 20, 30 years old. And the question was, why is the industry like this? Why do some assets get economically, I suppose, almost written off as an aircraft, but they're worth more in their constituent parts? But that's just the nature of the industry, isn't it?
It's all down to opportunities, right? So we get brand new engines, we look at those engines. If they're low thrust engines and we can buy them at the right price, we'll dismantle those engines and we make a profit from that as well. So these engines have never flown. Air trade is now running 13 years and we're on our 8th new engine.
Right,
so
okay.
I'd be quite happy when we get to one a year.
and obviously a lot of this, you're benefiting, I suppose, from situations in the industry where parts are hard to come by, supply chains are still disrupted from COVID. Any sign of that ending, or is this going to continue? Is this the new norm?
No, I think there's always, I think when Lee put up the details this morning was very helpful for people to see the amount of assets that are available. He took that from IBA, and there's a lot of assets there still to go and find. We're still finding them. We're diversifying all the time, going into different type assets. We just don't do narrow body, we do wide body. So we look at Pratt & Whitney 4168, CF680s, 80Es, 80C2s. So we just don't stay in one hole. We go along into different boroughs looking for different things and looking for opportunities. So we're in a very strong place ourselves now as a company. We've got Acorn on board with us. That's given us huge amount of financing to go and buy more assets, and we're really looking forward then to next year to spread the wings and buy more stuff. So anyone out there with anything for sale, we're here.
Good pitch. When you say Lee, you don't mean me, do you? You've got a Lee.
Lee Carey.
Lee Carey, and that Lee is your
asset manager, VP of assets.
Asset manager, and he did the presentation on your behalf this morning. So
he's done a great job, and Kristen done a great job as well. She was on the panel.
Another one of your young members of staff as well.
Yeah.
So it's good to see you got young people in the business.
We love educating young people. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So, as you said, there was a lot of assets out there, and Lee's presentation put some figures, the figures that you mentioned just then. Thousands of aircraft sat, we see them every now and then in the desert in the United States or whatever. And they're doing nothing. I mean, they're just sitting there waiting to be either recycled or reused or whatever. Are these all potential assets that you can get your hands on, or are some just going to stay there until they kind of rot?
Well, you're just waiting for airlines, leasing companies, maybe banks or whatever for them to make those decisions and put them to market. So what we're doing is we're turning all the stones, and we're going looking for those assets, and we can find out who the owners are, contact the owners, and see is that asset for sale, and then I have the checkbook with me here today. I'm ready to write the checks and buy the assets.
And this plays into the sustainability argument, doesn't it? I mean, I know, having spoken to AFRA about why AFRA came about, it started because it was a bad look for the industry to have aircraft being sort of ripped to bits on airport runways, people flying in and going, what's going on there? So Africa came about to try to sort of to stave off regulation, but to actually bring some industry standards to end of life. But still, you've still got an industry that's got assets sitting there doing nothing. So actually, for the industry to be more sustainable, you'd want them to start to bring these assets back into some sort of circulation, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but like there's a huge demand for aircraft today. Everybody is trying to get an aircraft to put it back up. The new stuff is all giving problems. There's a lot of engine problems, as we all are aware of. So some of the older stuff is coming back into more demand. But how we work it is, when we take an asset in, we take that asset on board, and it takes us 15 days to dismantle a narrow body. And then we bring in the scissors, we cut it up, and we get rid of it. Metal, everything is gone. So 20 days, we're totally clear, and we go to the next asset. So we're all about keeping the place tidy, clean, keeping it safe for the team to work in, which is really critical. And we don't leave anything hanging around in the yard or at the airport. We're very strong in keeping the place tidy. I come from an engine background, and that's just the way that we've always been educated. I'm in the business 39 years, and a lot of that is to do with how you're brought up in aviation.
Yep.
And I've brought that through with the team. So we're like a production line at the end of life. That's probably the best way of putting it. And we're quite, we're all about trying to get the maximum out of the asset, even in metal value. So we're probably doing around 90-95% of recycling. The carbon fibre is going to be the biggest issue.
Yep.
I'd like to see that getting dealt with somewhere along the line. I don't know who's going to deal with it.
Work is ongoing on that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to take a long time though, because if you look at the amount of carbon fibre in the 787, it's I think it's about 85% carbon fibre, 15% titanium. So there's a lot there.
Lots of other themes came out this week that are related to your business. So data collaboration and all that, technology and AI. What does that mean for your business? I mean, a better approach to data, a better approach to AI. Do you think that's going to change things?
No, I'm big into automation. We've done an awful lot in it this year. We've met as a group of people coming to the end of the year now. As the team met, we said that we're going to do the same again. We've invested, we went into AvSite. We have AvSite, which is a fantastic platform. It's a Salesforce base. It's done so much for our business, but we've brought in another company called Predictive, which is added onto that again. So I can run the whole business off a TV in my office. I've all my KPIs, I've everything. I can walk into the sales room and see where I am from sales. I can walk into the repair room, see how much I have out on the repairs. I can go into accounts and see where we are with cash, open invoices. So we have a full picture of the business, which is really important. But you know what? We're a data business, and that's not enough. I want more. So I'm all the time looking for more. So this year, we've put into the budget to spend probably $500,000 again to try to make the system
more
better.
Data, more transparency.
Oh, yes. Definitely. It's the only way to go.
Leaving no stone unturned, really, is it?
No.
Okay. Just a final word again back to this conference. We had north of 120-ish people, I guess, over the 2 days. Lots of chance to network, great venue, etc. But what's the value of just getting people together? For a niche, what seems like a niche topic like this, but actually it's a topic that really unites everybody. So what's been the value, do you think?
Well, I think we all like different topics, depending on who you are and what you're here for. Everyone likes certain topics, but this was really important to us and what we do, and that's why we're delighted to sponsor it, and we'll certainly look at doing it again next year. And you need more of this type of thing, and I think it done us a lot of good this morning. I think we got the name out there very well, so thanks very much.
Yeah,
we totally enjoyed it.
Well, it's our pleasure. Thanks very much for the support, Ken. We also look forward to next year. Announcements coming as to where and when, but we're looking forward to it already. So thanks very much.
Chris at 3:30, so we'll let you know.
Thanks very much, Ken.
All right. Thanks, Lee. Thanks for your time. Cheers.
Okay, so Lucy Chatterjee from the Imperial Company. You've probably flown the furthest of anybody to come to the Predictive Aircraft Maintenance 2023 in London, all the way from Singapore.
Yes.
So thank you for that. That's a great effort. Tell us why. What did you come here for?
Well, thank you for the warm welcome, first of all. So I've been in the trade show conference industry for the last 15 years, and I have had my own business for the last 10 years, and we've been working with industry leaders in the defense and aerospace industry, helping them with exhibitions, air shows, logistics, marketing, chalet booth building, and naturally, as we have entered into our 10th year of existence, we want to diversify into other segments, such as perhaps, collaborating and organizing conferences of this nature.
Okay.
And so I was just looking for conferences that focus on AI's, how AI is disrupting the aviation industry, and I came across your conference's website, and I thought, well, why not? Just go and have a look. And what I really enjoyed was that despite being an outsider, I did think that the sessions were very general. For people like us, it's easy to grasp information because so much of it, for example, the session from the Microsoft CTO was on a very macro level, giving you insights into what is happening in the industry. And just getting the big vision. And so that helps us understand how the industry is headed, in the direction it's headed into, and how we can perhaps collaborate with companies like Real Response Media in making this conference bigger and also more global and taking it to the APAC region.
Well, we hope to explore that. So it's really the topic. It's the AI, it's the technology that really gets you interested. But why is that? Clearly, everyone's trying to grasp what this means for them, and it's a global issue, I suppose. So it doesn't really matter where you're talking about it; it's going to be relevant.
Yeah, I mean, someone gave this example yesterday about how you can just go by recommendations and buy a book on Amazon. You can't quite do that in this industry. And of course, there are industries like aviation or even shipping, which are perhaps a little bit slower in adopting changes. Of course, there are regulations in place, as we had heard from the panel on regulatory. And so I think that therefore it's very interesting to see how the aviation industry is catching up with other industries vis-a-vis AI. And so I just wanted to see today and yesterday through the sessions how much of that is being integrated by the OEMs and the smaller players, and how open are the big companies to having startups, AI startups, be part of their framework.
Yeah. So, like I said at the beginning, you're from Singapore, so you see things from that point of view, from the East. I mean, traditionally, a lot of the sort of the focus of power in the industry has been in the West, in Europe, in America. Do you see things shifting your way, where you're based over in the Far East?
Absolutely, and I'm Indian. I still have my Indian passport, so and I strongly believe that this is the Asian century. Some say it's the Chinese century, but Jeff Bezos would like to say it's the Indian century. So I think, and of course, Singapore as the hub for every big company on the planet for the APAC region says a lot about Singapore's growing importance. But I think apart from that, just having China and India, two of the largest top 5 big economies in that part of the world, and the fact that they're still developing further, and the domestic air market in India alone, just the trajectory for growth in that space is...
Well, it's astonishing, isn't it?
It is,
what's
absolutely.
coming along.
So I think there's so much room for conferences like this to have more presence in that part of the world, and India especially, because India is still that market that's not really touched upon by a lot of the conferences. I feel there's no Indian edition of the MRO shows and conferences like this.
No.
So I think and that's why I'm here, to see what's happening and how can I collaborate with companies like yours to bring you to our side of the world.
And I guess the aviation industry is by its nature global. I mean, that's the whole point of it. So if any industry can reflect the diversity in the world, I mean, you are a personification of that sitting in front of me today. It's the aviation industry, and it should be doing more of that. Is that what you feel? Do you feel the aviation has got a great opportunity to grasp that particular challenge?
Absolutely, I think so, as you said. And as a global person, I have 2 other companies that I run. I'm constantly on an airplane traveling from point A to B, and I think I love this industry, and also having worked in this industry, and I think this industry can do so much more in having a greater footprint in the Asian region, because I think a lot of the decision making, of course, and conferences and intellectual talk around the subjects of the day happen in Western parts of the world, and Asia. And if at all, there'll be a smaller edition of the conference or the exhibition in Asia. Whereas I think that focus needs to shift more towards Asia, and conferences need to be hosted on a greater scale, I think.
Yeah. Well, look, we're really glad you came. Glad you enjoyed it. It was good fun.
Thank you.
Last night we were bowling together, and
Yes.
you were bowling in high heels and still managed to beat our boss. So
Thank
well
you.
done, fantastic.
Oh, thank you
Yeah,
so much.
He'll never live it down. Thanks very much, Lucy. We'll hope to see you again soon, hopefully
Thank
in
you,
India.
Lee. Absolutely. Thank you, Lee. And look forward to collaborating. That's the buzzword of the conference.
It is.
And collaborating with you guys.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Cheers. Right, so now I'm joined by Emna. Emna is a founder of a startup in MRO from France called Alro. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah,
Just
it
about.
is Airot.
In my awful English. Anyway, tell us a bit about the company and what it does.
Yeah, so let's present myself. So my name is Emna Touiri. We are based in Paris. I am the co-founder of Airot Startup, which is a startup working in the aeronautical sector. We are developing a product which consists in predictive maintenance, basically for engines, but in 2024 we are aiming to develop a new product for the whole aircraft. So, yeah.
Yeah, wow. So how was it breaking or trying to break into a sector like aviation, which from the outside will seem to be a very settled sector, very big players,
Yeah.
quite high barriers to entry, you'd
Yeah.
expect. I don't know, you maybe tell me differently, but how is it trying to break into a sector like that?
Yeah, it's a long story. It started with the aviation love. So, and let's say that Airot is a bit business family. So we are 3 engineers, 2 brothers and a sister. I'm a background digital transformation engineer. So my brother is aeronautical engineer who worked since 13 years in the MRO sector. And my other brother is informatic and data engineer and data scientist. So with our love to aviation and our technical skills, we tried to brainstorm, and we are today with our solution Airot.
Okay,
So
so it's a family affair.
It's family affair and combining technical background with aviation love.
Yeah, amazing. And we did speak about this a lot today, over the last 2 days, because it's about tech and all that, but it is about people. And Dr. Fan from Canfield University said exactly that earlier on. So how important is it that you are doing this? You're a young female in the industry with technical background. It's relatively rare, or it shouldn't be. If it is, it shouldn't be. How important is it, do you think, that you are kind of a role model for the sector for the future?
Yeah, if you will say I'm female, so I'm not integrating such a domain or sector because it's, as known, a bit masculine sector.
Yep.
For me, there is no masculine sector or feminine sector. It depends on skills, the willing, and the ambitions. If we have the ambitions and we have the technical and the knowledge, the sufficient knowledge, we can make it.
Yeah. And how are you being supported in the industry? You've obviously would have got some funding, I no doubt, as all startups would need. But do you find the industry is supporting you?
Yeah, actually, the aviation sector is a bit confidential, and it's not that easy to integrate. But as a young female entrepreneur in the domain, I assisted in different events, like last year in this Predictive Maintenance, the first edition of Predictive Maintenance, and I was in the Aviation Forum last year in Germany or in Le Bourget, and every time I go to my target or my dream client, I really find support and it suspects the curiosity of my target. So I think I'm the most welcome. I should work on my product, and I think and I believe that I'm going to have a place in this sector.
Good. And you mentioned it there, really, but coming to events like this are important.
Yeah.
How did you find the last 2 days? Was it a key thing for you to come here to meet the right people?
Yeah. As I said, I'm working in a B2B sector.
Yeah.
So to go to my clients, I should go to events like this PAM conference. But what I find specific in this event is like a niche event. the number of participants is not huge as other events, so it's specific, and let's say it's direct and around the subject that we are working on.
Yeah.
So I could find the specific information I need and the target clients I need.
Yeah.
So I could be in direct contact with my target. I exchanged many contacts and I have really promising opportunities after this event.
Yeah, it's really relevant to you, isn't it? So everyone here is potentially a customer or a collaborator of some sort. So.
Yeah, we have really potential collaboration to come.
Yeah, and just a quick thought on the future for you guys.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself? What's the ambition for the company in 3 and 5 years' time?
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, we are aiming to more develop our solution, not to be interested just in engines, but for the whole aircraft. And we are intending to have more clients in Europe, and then why not to go to the international sector and international market.
Okay. Global domination.
Yeah,
no
maybe.
Less.
Women's are coming.
Yeah, they certainly are. But Emma, thanks very much. Thanks for coming for starting. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for this great event and the great opportunity and the great organization, let's say.
Lovely. Thank you for that.
Thank
Great.
you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, so next we're joined by Daniel Williams from Microsoft UK. He's CTO of Aviation at Microsoft, and he's just come off stage, just delivered our final keynote at the Predictive Aircraft Maintenance Conference 2023. So thank you for doing that, Daniel. Really appreciate your time.
No problem.
Let's just start by talking about the kind of things that you were saying to the industry today about how this sort of technology we've been debating and discussing over 2 days is really potentially transformative. Where's your assessment of where the industry is in terms of its adoption of this kind of technology?
Yeah, so thank you very much for inviting me. First of all, really enjoyed speaking today. Listening to some of the other sessions that that you guys were producing today was fantastic. Networking with a lot of my peers as well. I think from an assessment perspective, I think it's fair to say the industry is a little bit behind the rest of the world, certainly from a PAM perspective as far as I'm concerned. So I also do a lot of work with automotive customers that are leading the edge. So there's a lot of organisations out there at the moment, certainly in the UK, ones with orange vans and yellow vans out there, that are working on predictive maintenance programs for their customers. And the customers are absolutely loving it because it's keeping their vehicles on the road longer, it's costing them less money on a regular basis. And I think the aviation perspective and the PAM perspective needs to take note of how that's approached, and the fact that operators and airlines and manufacturers can save potentially a lot of money when it comes to replacing parts. Obviously, there's a whole different conversation when you get into maintenance programs in terms of, can't think of the word off the top of my head now, warranties when it comes to that perspective. So warranties could potentially impact things, but I think from an airline point of view, it's going to be really impactful from predictive maintenance, and AI fits into that really beautifully because it can help build those analytics and those predictive models as well.
Interesting that aviation can probably learn from other sectors and maybe doesn't look outside itself often enough. I mean, maybe they should do a bit more of that, and equally vice versa. Other sectors can look at aviation and see what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't just specifically talk to aviation industry customers. Like I said, I work with a lot with automotive, but I also talk to manufacturing customers sometimes just to see what they're doing. And I think industries all have a commonality across them. It's all about people and it's all about revenue opportunities. And whether you're working on a manufacturing line or you're driving a repair van to a site or flying a plane, the whole thing's the same. It's all about sort of the customer experience all the way through and how things can be prevented, improved, and how you can build that sort of brand loyalty as well at the same time.
So the nature of aviation is that it's quite risk averse. It has to be, particularly in the operational side of things.
Yeah,
safety has to be the number one priority, and that's understandable. So there's a degree of conservative approach when it comes to risk taking and investment in technology. How does the industry not leave itself as a laggard in all this and take educated risks or educated bets that they can move things forward?
I think it's quite interesting. One of the during the panel, the last panel, one of the delegates asked a particularly interesting question around, in a predictive maintenance scenario, if you've got an alert, but the airline chooses to not do anything and then runs and then an accident happens, what's the legal ramifications? never mind the legal ramification, I think you've got morality ramifications. At the same time, if an accident happens, you have the information. I think if you're leveraging predictive aircraft maintenance, you need to make use of the data, and you need to make use of the alerting. The whole point of it is to make everything safer, everything well governed and within compliance, and deal with the regulators, but remove the unscheduled downtime and the risk associated to that as well. So trying to bring the industry there, I think it's got to be a cultural change, and that's a global cultural change, and that's something that's not going to happen overnight. What I'm waiting for is one big player or one absolute game-changing situation that will just drag everyone to the head of it, because that's typically what needs to happen in these types of industries.
And what's that going to come from, you think? I mean, there's some companies that will never take that risk. There are some that maybe are too risky in some ways. So it's somewhere in the middle, they have to be cajoled along.
I don't know. I appreciate this is completely out of industry. But if you take a look at the music industry. Music industry sold CDs, and that's how people got their money, concerts and things like that. Then Spotify came along after the whole illegal streaming thing, and that changed the complete industry on its head almost overnight. And I think it's got to be a similar scenario where someone's got to come in with a completely different perspective and just change the industry altogether, and then everyone else gets aligned along with it, because the standard is now set, and you need to meet that standard. Yeah,
and all businesses, all industries have got a decision to make whether they build their own technology, keep it in-house, they find partners to do it, like yourselves. There's plenty of startups out there who themselves are a bit able to be more agile and take a few more risks. So I'm an aviation person, I'm maybe an airline. How do I decide who to work with? Who do I? And trust issues are huge in technology. So what factors do I use to determine who's the best partner for me?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's, although all technology partners do a wonderful job of marketing, I think it's very, very careful to make sure you do your due diligence around the technology and the use cases that you're going for. I'd also say play with all the technologies as well. The major players in this space are obviously us, Microsoft, AWS, Google, and now X or Twitter with Elon Musk's new one. I'd say play with all of them from that point of view, but make sure you're lining yourself up with real succession opportunities by working with the right partner in terms of delivery partner and capability. Train your staff to do the right things and understand what they're doing and how they're interacting with it. One of our products, Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, we've got it out there, we've got a lot of customers working with it, but 9 times out of 10, customer doesn't know what to do with it. Yeah. So it's basically ChatGPT built into Office Suite. You give that to a normal business user, they have no idea what to do from a prompting perspective. Conversate or the talk track I just gave, ChatGPT helped me write that.
Okay.
Because I don't have weeks available to write a 30, 40 page presentation from start to end, and I need speaker notes as I'm going through it as well. Yeah. So I think with all this thing, you've got to bring your people on the journey as well from that point of view. So play with all the different types of technologies, pick the right use cases, and ensure you're bringing your people on the journey and you're skilling them as well at the same time.
A lot of the discussion in the last 2 days is about data and IP and so on. And one of the fears about working with a Microsoft is that you take all the IP and the data and you become the competitor. And that's has happened in the past. Yeah. It will happen in the future, I'm sure. How do you reassure people that's not going to be the case with Microsoft?
How many days have you got? So I could be talking about this sort of stuff for ages. So our stance, from a corporate stance, Microsoft is very, very clear in terms of data privacy. So OpenAI and Microsoft provide the platform and a foundational model for AI to be built on. After that, everything else is yours. So once you start embedding data, your own training, your own analytics into the Azure platform for OpenAI, that's entirely yours. We do nothing with it. We will never take any benefit from your learnings, your analytics, and provide it out to other customers and use that moving forwards. Every benefit is yours as soon as that happens. We literally just provide the platform. And AWS and Google will have the same sort of stance. Whether that's true or not, I'm not entirely sure because I'm not fully versed into that world. But I know certainly from a Microsoft standpoint, your data is your data. It's not our data, it's your data.
Yeah, fine. That's reassuring, and it gives people the sort of the confidence to move forward. Just a final word on events like this. Getting people together in a person-to-person environment to talk about something that's important. It's a relatively niche topic, but very important to the industry. why is it still important to do this kind of thing? Do you think this moves the dial a little bit when people get together and start just to chat about it?
Significantly. I mean, I think you've had about over 30% increase in terms of attendees this year based on last year. So last year I didn't attend, but this year I'm glad I made the time this year. So normally with these types of conferences, and I attend quite a few industry-specific ones throughout the year, it's almost like there's too much to focus on. There's a lot of tracks where I just try and focus on technology, but there's a bit over here and a bit over there, and I'm pulling myself from left to right. I think the joy of this is it's focused on predictive aircraft maintenance, and it's very rare that you've got this part of the industry specifically aligned and identified where everyone from an industry expertise, and you've got some really clever people here today, and some fantastic industry experts in this particular sector, all talking about the same thing, all wanting to achieve the same goals. And I think things like these, they need to happen.
Yeah.
They need to happen because we need to collaborate together.
I think what I liked about it is, or I like about it, just witnessing for the first time myself these last 2 days, is that there's nobody coming here with all the answers, or pretending they're here with all the answers. But you can get that in other places. They're actually coming here to learn from each other. So obviously, if they're very knowledgeable, they will impart that during the conference. But I don't think anyone's thinking, I just listen to me, I've got all the answers. And that's a nice thing, because I do feel like that's how things develop. So you go away here more knowledgeable than you were
absolutely.
when you came.
I mean, 100. My biggest problem, or my biggest lack of understanding, was around the regulation, and the panel before me was all around regulation. And you know what, legal doesn't always sound particularly interesting, but come from an AI and data perspective, this is really interesting to see what their stance of it is, because they set the standards globally, and it's really interesting to see what they hear about it.
Yeah. Lovely. Well, look, Daniel, thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
Behind us, the lunch is just sort of breaking up and people are moving away. So we've enjoyed the last 2 days, and we're looking forward to next year. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Cheers.